Like I was ready to shut mine down before I found you. And so thankfully I found you. Together worked on rebranding so that it would be a little bit easier for our audience to like connect with the business, I think. Hey, Boudoir photographers. Are you ready to be totally booked out with high-paying clients? I'm Tracy Lynn, and I went from side hustle photographer to running $1 million boudoir photography business, working just 30 hours a month. That's right, just 30 hours a month. On this podcast, I tell you how I did it and how you can too. Hey guys, welcome back to Sustainable Freedom with Boudoir Photography. And today's really exciting because first of all, it's the 100th episode, but also I invited Ashley, who everyone has probably heard of at this point because I've talked about her before, but she's also she's my lead photographer in St. Louis, but she's also what we have officially dubbed her as online business manager, but OBM. So I'm very excited to have her on, and you guys will honestly probably see her more often on here. We have a few episodes where she's going to come on and hang out with us and chat with us. So I'm super excited to have her on even more often and let you guys get to know her. Awesome. So before we get started, I want to talk about something really exciting because this is the 100th episode and we have the rebrand for TK Boudoir going on right now. I'm also going to give you guys something I think is really exciting, and it's 15-minute free coaching calls. So on these calls, you can talk about whatever you want, and I'm going to give you all the information like for 15 straight minutes. And honestly, sometimes it's probably going to go a little bit longer, but we can talk about whatever you want and I will give you honest feedback. So the link to grab your free coaching call will be in the show notes. So make sure you go check that out. All right, let's dive in. And what we're talking about today specifically is the rebrand of TK Boudoir. Like I said, that was formerly Boudoir by Tracy Lynn, but we ended up rebranding, and we're going to talk about the reasons why, our hesitations on it, and all the different things about the rebrand, but why we ultimately thought that it was the best decision for our business. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's start with why we decided to rebrand, and Ashley's going to jump in as we go. She'll probably have more to say towards when we're talking about like the launch and everything, because she was a major part of that. But we ultimately decided to rebrand because originally, when I was in the very early stages of the business, I went with my name. And if you're in the beginning stages of your business, I want you guys to know that this was the biggest mistake I think I made early on. And
it's definitely the biggest mistake I made too in my own business.
yeah, and we've definitely talked about that before because it just gives a, like, if you bring on an associate, and I know that Ashley and I definitely felt that when we first started, was there was a huge disconnect between the audience and bringing you on because they were like, why is Tracy not here? Like, where is Tracy? Should I trust this person?
It didn't matter at all. You could have brought in the most famous photographer in the entire world to be your associate,
Mm-hmm.
and they still wouldn't trust me.
Yeah.
Because it was your name.
Yep, exactly. And I didn't realize how big of a deal that was going to be until we actually got to it. I really did not think that it was going to be that big of a deal because you have like had a lot of the exact same training that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really thought, and you have more experience, if we're being honest, like with photography. Maybe not boudoir
Not
because I
boudoir,
had shot like, yeah, but like as far as photography, you had definitely had more experience than I did, and you've been doing it longer. And yet there was definitely a disconnect. They were not trusting you very much at all.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that, like if I wanted this to be a sellable business, it's going to be hard to sell it as Boudoir by Tracy Lynn for the exact same reasons as why it was hard for me to bring an associate in.
Yeah. And I think that that's really the bigger issue is, and I mean, I can speak a little bit on that if you want me to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that the sellable business is actually the bigger issue here because
Mm-hmm.
I had a wedding business that I had built for 13 years. And as my kids grew older and I wanted to spend more weekends at home, for me to pull back, it either was a pull back and entirely pull back and just have less income, or my option was
Mm-hmm.
to bring an associate on. So we already talked about the
Yeah.
associate issue, and that was not working
Yep.
for my brand. And
Yep.
instead of me coming up with another option, I just let my business
Mm-hmm.
die. So I had this
Yeah.
incredibly successful luxury business that could have been like a retirement for me. It could have been a huge amount of money for my kids that I just let
Yep.
die because it wasn't sellable.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And let's be honest, like I was probably a year behind you on that. Like I was ready to shut mine down before I found you. And so thankfully I found you. I'm sad that you let your business die, but
That's
I'm
okay.
very lucky that I found you. And but we together worked on rebranding so that it would be a little bit easier for our audience to like connect with the business, I
Mhm.
think. I think that that's a huge issue that most photographers are going to face because they're all, let's be honest, most of them are naming their business after their own names.
Mhm.
So that's just something like if you're in the early stages of business or you're not too far in, I would rethink the name of your business right now,
Yeah.
um, when it's early enough that you can actually make the changes.
I would just make sure that your name is not attached to it, period.
Yeah.
And if you,
And I mean, it,
especially if you're a woman, don't
yeah. Yeah.
put your name on there, because I also had that experience where my business name was the name I had with my ex-husband. So
Yes.
when I got
Yeah.
divorced, it was a little tricky to manage that.
Right. No, I think most of the audience actually knows that I had a similar experience. And so my name before was my previous married name. And so I had the same experience. I did up and change the name of my business, but it was close enough to Boudoir by Tracy Lynn that nobody really noticed the changes. And at this point, it was like 6 years ago, so it doesn't matter, but
Mhm.
still, I experienced that. So definitely, if you're a woman, just keep your name out of it. Let's just make it easy on yourself.
Yes, 100%.
But then I think the other thing was we were really experiencing a disconnect between the messaging and the experience itself. And that was because it was my fault because I just threw you into the brand and was like, hey, good luck. I'm done. And that was because I was super busy over here on the education side. And I just was like, you know how to shoot. You're good. Go ahead. And so once we did the rebrand, we sat down together and from the very first stage of like when we actually first talked to the client to the delivery, we like laid out exactly how everything's going to happen and make sure that um, it is actually what we're putting out there.
Mhm.
What we put out there is actually what's going to happen going forward. So, I think that's something that's going to, like, if you bring in an employee, there's definitely as a learning curve. Let's say that a learning curve for getting the employee, even if it's just an associate photographer, getting them acclimated to how you run your business. Because a lot of the stuff that I did in my business lives in my head, and it still lives in my head. We're getting it out of my head right now, but for the longest time, it was all in my head. I knew how things were going, and I just couldn't believe that Ashley couldn't read my mind. It's just crazy. So that has been a big thing. So, also, when you're in the early stages of your business, I really recommend getting everything out of your brain onto paper so that it makes it easier when you bring somebody in
I mean,
as
even like
well.
just recording stuff that you're doing as you're doing it to build a
Yeah,
library of your business practices is super helpful.
right.
So,
Yeah, and we're starting from the beginning
yeah.
on both sides of the business, the education and the photography, because Ashley's working, obviously, she's on this podcast, but she's working on both sides of the business now. And so, we're trying to get everything out of my head for both sides of it.
Mm.
When I was in St. Louis, I was able to just go shoot whenever I felt like shooting. So, like, a client asked if they could have a Thursday session. I mean, as long as I was free or I didn't have another session, I could just pop into the studio and photograph a session. But since then, I have, since 2018, I haven't actually lived in St. Louis. I moved away 2.5 hours south. And then once I met Tommy, I started traveling with him, so I can be anywhere from 6 hours away to 22 hours away. And I was flying in for sessions. So everything had to be super stacked. I was working 1 week a month. Whoops. I was working one week a month, so I was shooting all my sessions in like 2 to 3 days, and then I would stay in St. Louis while I was working, and then my ordering sessions same week, and then the next week was delivery. So I was getting all the stuff done in my business within 2 weeks, whereas before when I lived in St. Louis, it was I just shot when the client had time, so everything was not as streamlined as it was. So then I had a super streamlined business when I was living away, but and as it is super streamlined still. But when I brought on Ashley, she was able to shoot more often, and so there was definitely like a disconnect in the messaging as far as that too. Because on my website for the longest time, even with Ashley there, I still had all the messaging where I was coming into the studio one time a month. I was working like in 2 weeks, and like that was the schedule. But then they would go to the schedule, to the calendar, and they saw all these open days. So I also think that there was like a time period where we weren't getting as many bookings, because even online it said that I was only there for a certain amount of time, but it was showing that we had a super open schedule. And so
It was just very confusing from the client's perspective. No matter what our intent was, we were not showing what we actually were
no,
doing.
exactly. And I definitely think that that was why we weren't booking. Like, we were doing fine, we had sessions on the schedule and everything, but we weren't booking as easily and as far out as I was when it was me shooting.
Yeah.
And it was all of those reasons combined, and it just felt like
Well, and two, on top of all of that, the other experience that I was having was I was getting repeat clients when I first started. So these
mm-hmm,
repeat clients were coming in, they've already shot with you. And
mm-hmm,
then they would be like, I would like to do something different since we didn't
mm-hmm,
do this before. I was in this weird like paradigm where I'm trying to do your poses in 1 hour. And then I've got these women who are there at the studio telling me, I don't want to do that. I want to do this instead. And I was just like, well, but I need to like make sure that I do my job for you, but I also want to make
right.
sure that they're happy and like we make money. And so going from, an hour streamline session where it's like the same core poses for every single client to now what we're
Mm-hmm,
doing, which is something completely custom, was
right.
a completely different experience for the client. But I do think
Yeah.
that it is going well now. Like now that
Yeah.
we've done all of this. It's
Yeah. And especially now that we've like worked out the kinks, there were lots of kinks for a while. And also, I was just like, no, just do your job. Like, go do the things that you need to do. And I was it was partly a lot me, because I was just like, no, I am so sick of the photography business. I want to work on this side of the business. I don't want to do that. I just want to do the ordering sessions and let my business stay as streamlined as it was. That was not where we were. Like, that was not
we had to have some come to
what the
Jesus
business needed.
talks, but that's okay.
Yes. And I was really not wanting to do it. But then when I opened up a little bit, like, I totally know that it was me that was the issue, and I accept that. But it was just like, I just wanted my business to run the way it was running smoothly. It was like, this works. Why are we changing it? But now that we've changed it, I will say that our sales average is like between 3 and 4,000, with more high averages than it ever was the way that I was running it before. The way that I was running it before was definitely like, it worked. It was consistent. That was awesome. But now it's better. And
I mean, we had that.
honestly, I
I think
think
we had
now,
that first one that was like, what was it, like $6,500 or something sale,
yes,
and we were like,
within like a month of me being
okay,
there.
we're gonna keep doing this.
I was like, I think this could work. we have some kinks to work out on my end, but I think this can work. And that I think that $6,500 sale, before that my highest sale was like 5,500, which is still good, but that was one sell in like 11 years.
Mhm.
Not 11 years. One sell in like 7 years, I think. And so I was like, okay, that I think that was when I started seeing the light and taking it a little bit more seriously, when it started getting more consistent, like $3,000 to $5,000 sales with that higher sale, instead of closer to 1 to 2,000
Mhm.
with the higher end being like two to 3,000. So I think when I saw that $6,500 sale, I was like, okay, I'm more open to this now. Let's talk about this expansion. And then I think the other thing, and this was me for sure, a lot of this is me. There's going to be a very consistent story along the way. I was not open to changing much because it had worked for so long, and I just wanted it to keep working so that I could not have to work so hard in this business. But sometimes things change and marketing changed. That was definitely one of the things that changed, was marketing, because I was focused so hard on brides, but we don't really need to market to brides, because brides are going to come to for Boudoir anyway, because it's easy, like it's a gift that they want to give their husband. So it's easy to target them. Um but the thing that we're learning, I think, is a lot of times the brides are going to be with you, like, I like to target them because they're going to stay with you, but you don't need to like focus on marketing to them. So what I've found is I really do want to keep doing like maybe one bridal fair a year just to get more email addresses in. But the best part is like you can create a marketing strategy to keep them with you ongoing.
Yeah, and I mean, they won't want to come back repeatedly when you do the exact same thing with them.
Yeah,
But when you
exactly.
give them the option to have these like creative
Mm-hmm.
sessions, then they're coming back more frequently. So,
Yep. And I will say that like the reason that I did the same session over and over again was because it was easy and it didn't require any extra thought on my end. And I did come from dental hygiene, so like I did the exact same thing all day long. It was consistent. I knew that I could make the money. I didn't have to think, and I didn't come home and I wasn't exhausted when I was done. When I was being super creative 8 years ago after a session, I would go like crash on the couch. I could not do more than one session a day if I had to be really creative. Thankfully, you are really good at being creative. So I don't think that this would have been possible, the creativity and bringing new clients in, because, or utilizing the same clients over and over again would never have been possible if I was being the photographer still, because I would have hated it. Like that was something when I first started with my business coach, like in 2015, she told me, she was like, the your best clients are going to be the clients that you have already had. Like they're returning clients. Those are your best clients. And I was like, I don't want returning clients because I want to shoot the same session over and over again.
I mean, they say it's like what, three different ways of making money. It's like increase your average sale, get a new client, or have a repeat client, or like the three
Yeah.
ways. And Tracy apparently loves to just look for new clients all the time or increase the
Right.
average
And that's,
sale. But it is true. The easiest way is the returning clients because they love you. They
yes.
already know what to expect. They're willing to invest. They know
Yeah.
how much money everything costs. Like, why
Yep.
not target those people and make them the
Exactly.
people who are like shouting at the rooftops, sharing everything you do?
Exactly. Exactly. And that was what I was doing. I mean, I don't think it was wrong. I
It
think
wasn't.
what I did was create like a bunch of like 1,000 clients who already love me.
We just
So
left
now we
off
can
those
market.
people.
Yeah. So now we can just market to those clients over and over again for the next 10 years or however long we feel like it.
Do you think that that moment with your business coach was the indication that you're really a business owner who happened to be a
Yeah.
photographer, not a photographer
Yes.
who has a photography business?
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it should have been like, at that point, honestly, the point that I knew that I was a business owner and photographer was there was a couple times where I was like, I really don't want to go shoot this freaking session. I had a blast doing all of the lead up to the session. And then I was like, shit, I have to go shoot this session. And that was when I knew that I was a business owner in photography. But yeah, that was the moment where I was like, I did all this work and now I have to actually go shoot the session and be creative.
Can
And I
we
don't want to.
can we talk about the other reason why we decided to shift from the brides to our age demographics? I
Yes.
mean, well, number one, we're both pushing 40. Like,
Yeah, I don't like saying it out loud, but yes.
we're both pushing 40. Like, we're getting old. It's okay. 40, and even if that's old, I'm fine with it because I'm way happier coming into 40 than I have
Right.
ever been in my entire life. So, but let's be real. The other issue that I have had, well, that I've noticed with our older clients and brides, when we compare the two, our biggest sales have all been older clients. They haven't
Yeah.
been brides because brides are usually
Right.
using this, like their parents are usually paying for this, or
Yeah.
they have pulled a little bit of money together to pay for it for themselves or pay for it themselves for a gift. However,
Right.
women who are 40 and who have established a career for 20 years have the money to spend on
Yep.
this. They want to feel beautiful. They
Yep.
want to feel desirable again because a lot of them have been raising kids and jobs, and like it's not the same experience in their relationships or in their lives that it was in their 20s. So it's just a
Yeah.
completely different clientele, but it's a significantly more available clientele too.
And I think they're more open to it than they were even like 8 years.
They're
Like
also
before, like even,
they're also much more comfortable with their bodies too,
yeah.
which has been,
Yeah.
that has been really eye opening to me because even though they're not as comfortable, like as in like they're not like, oh my gosh, I'm so hot and pretty and beautiful and like focusing all of their money and attention like on their outward appearance, but they are more comfortable in like letting us be more creative and do like the implied nude and body contouring stuff. They will, they're like, I've had kids. Like it doesn't bother me to like change
Yeah.
right here. I don't need to go to
Yeah.
the bathroom or anything like that. So like those are some of the things that I noticed since switching kind of from the brides to the older clientele, that they're just far more comfortable in the experience itself.
Women in their 30s, 40s, 50s are willing to invest in someone who knows what the heck they're doing, whereas the brides are being so money conscious that they are going to the photographer who's maybe done like one or two boudoir sessions instead of the person who like specializes in it. Um, so I've seen the difference for a while, but also brides have always been super easy for me to get. And like I said, business owner in photography, not photographer in business. But now that I have help, I really love the direction that we're going. Because if I was trying to do this myself, and we'll talk about that with the rebrand, there is no way that I could have done this by myself at all. Not even a tiny bit.
I feel
It
like
would have,
that's a great segue into the next thing we want to
yeah.
talk about, which is, our hesitations to rebranding, because there was a lot of them.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. I did that on purpose. um, yeah, so let's talk about the hesitations because there were, like you said, lots of them. Um, I I knew that we needed to because of the Boudoir by Tracy Lynn versus like TK Boudoir, which is what we changed it to. But I I knew that we needed to, but I just wanted to make sure that if I did I knew that it was going to be expensive, so it had to be exactly right. Um, so we've already talked about it a little bit. Like there was a disconnect with the audience and the clients who walked in the studio. We wanted to recreate a sellable. We wanted to create a sellable business for the future, and that's a big goal of mine because I have been talking to our financial advisor, and I told her our goals, and she was like, honestly, what you need is like some sort of investment that you can sell eventually. And I had been talking about like selling my boudoir business for probably 5 years, not necessarily selling like this one, like the TK Boudoir. I was thinking about selling the Boudoir by Tracy Lynn. Um, but I also was like, it's going to be hard because it is my name. So I wanted to rebrand so that it could be a sellable business in the future. And then Ashley came up with an amazing idea of expanding the business on a whim one day.
Let's just say I'm very great at coming up with random fun ideas that
Yeah,
are not intended to be true or real. And then Tracy is just like, let's do
let's
it.
do it. Yeah.
Because what I
So,
said to her was, I was like, Tracy, there's a lot of people like me that were in the wedding industry because, so back up a little. I was in the wedding industry for 13 years and I was an educator in the industry. So I like was a brand ambassador at several companies, and we have a group of photographers who were in the education side. And the majority of us, when COVID hit, I mean, most of us were kind of planning to like exit the wedding industry and switch to portraits and commercial work before COVID, but one COVID hit, most of us, I would say probably about 75% of us are no longer in the wedding industry. And
mm-hmm,
I was telling her, well, Tracy, like I've got like all these friends all over the country. I mean, some of them are in like Central America, some of them are in Europe. Got all these people that are no longer shooting weddings that I'm sure would love just some extra income, because it's
mm-hmm.
not like Tracy has been like, you work for me now and you can't do anything
No.
on your own. Like the way it's set up is like pretty sweet. It's a very symbiotic relationship. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
you should just reach out to all my friends and open up Boudoir studios in all the places. And then she decided to do it.
Yes.
So
So, what Ashley has learned is don't ever give me ideas unless she plans to actually help follow through with this, because it will come to fruition. Unless you mean the ideas that you're saying, don't say it out loud
yeah,
near me.
I should just not talk anymore, which is bad.
And so now we're literally doing this. We're expanding the boudoir business. We have a location in Denver now. Um, it's going to be like, I'm not planning on just going all out. Obviously, the podcast is called Boudoir or Sustainable Freedom with Boudoir Photography. So we're creating a very sustainable business across the country. So what we're doing is slowly going to open locations over the next several years. We started in Denver, and now we're just expanding as we go. But one of the other hesitations that we had was my SEO was pretty good. It's not the best in St. Louis, but it's pretty good. I'm pretty far up there on most pages. There's a couple keywords that we're working on blogs and stuff, but mostly I'm on the top of page one for most of them. So I was a little bit worried about this, about the my search engine optimization SEO, because I worked really hard to get where I was and I didn't want to lose it. So that was definitely one of the things I was worried about. And then the other thing was confusion with the clients that we already have. And I did have one of my coaching clients. She literally thought that somebody stole my work and just created a new brand. But she asked me about it. And I was like, no, we just changed the brand and changed everything, which we I think we did a all right job at like teasing it for a little bit, but apparently not everyone was paying attention, because I definitely had a few people like, what the heck is going on? So there was some confusion.
But I feel like even since then, like it has been pretty seamless. I feel like
Yeah.
there's been like just a couple of like little things here and there, like we can't figure out how to change the name of our Amazon storefront
Yes.
or stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it has
That one.
really hasn't been like, I don't think it's been that huge of a change. Like I don't think anybody's like said anything or like been like, oh, I don't have
Mm-mm.
the brand recognition anymore. Like they still see it. So
Which I think is partly because like we changed the logo and everything, but it's still somewhat similar. It's still neutral colors. It looks a little bit different, but it's still somewhat similar to the old brand. So I think that helped is like we changed it, but we changed it like a lot, but we still kept it in close enough to the old brand that I think there was a little bit of like recognition from that as
Mhm.
well. Um, but then rebranding is not just your logo. So there's the messaging. We had to clean up the messaging on the website a lot because it was all towards brides, to be honest. And so we had to go in and switch up a lot of it. Um, I went in and I redid the copy, and then Ashley came in after me. She redid the copy, and then I went and checked that. But that way we wanted to make sure that the two of us had it like, because Ashley sees the clients face to face. I don't anymore. I talk to them before the session and I talk to them after the session, but you have the most time with them. So I really do think that, like as far as messaging, the clients way better than I do. So I do think that that is really helpful with like the messaging and the marketing side of it
Yeah, and I
too.
mean, like, kind of on that topic with the clients, because I'm the one that talks with them more. Like, when I knew that this was coming, I started talking to the
Mhm.
clients like during the
Yeah.
session about the messaging that kind of we were thinking. I mean, it wasn't like obvious that I was doing this, but I was
Yeah.
talking to them about it.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh my god, you should do this or you should do this." And so I would like
Mhm.
get this feedback from them in the session itself, or like, or I would talk to them about like, is there anything that you felt like was something that you wish you would have had, because that was
Mhm.
that gave us the opportunity to really create this brand around what they wanted, like around
Yeah.
the people that were actually spending this money with us wanted.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
once you know that you're
So
going to do
basically,
this, talk to
yeah.
your clients.
Yes. So basically, that's like message mining, which in Six Figures Simplified and Forever Booked Out, I have literal message mining trainings in there. So that's basically what you are doing
No, I didn't even
is
know that was a thing.
message mining with the clients so that you could use that for marketing. So didn't even know it, but there you were.
I don't know fancy terminology yet.
Yeah, you're learning. That's what happens when you've only technically been employed full time for a month.
Right, yes. And
You're
then
learning
in
all
my
the.
first, I think it was what, uh wait, hold on, I think I got hired like the second to last week of April, and
Mhm.
the rebrand launch party was May 1st. So
Yes. I don't mess around. When I want to do something, we do it.
like 80 weeks or 80 hours of work into a week. Ugh.
Yes. But yeah, so when we were rebranding, we did lots of things. I talked about the website, but also, and this is all Ashley, changing the way that we posted on Instagram, because I have been lazy for the last 5 years because I could be. I didn't have to do a lot on Instagram because clients were and still coming without me doing any work. Like I just posted some pretty pictures and went about my day. Ashley is speaking directly to our ideal clients, like exactly what they want to hear, what they're saying to themselves, all the things. She has changed the way that we're posting on Instagram. And I really do think that it's helping, especially with like the brand recognition and stuff like that.
It's just been more intentional. Like that was really
Mm-hmm.
the part that I kind of, like you were talking about how you didn't have to post on Instagram. I experienced the same thing, like because my wedding
Mm-hmm.
business was so word of mouth that
Mm-hmm.
you do not, like, the vanity metrics don't matter. Like I
Yeah.
didn't post on Instagram for like ever. I mean, I never posted on anything. But for, if Instagram is where you're getting a lot of clients, like the thing that I would really have focused on was walking through the client experience from beginning to end, thinking about what these people deserve, because
Mm-hmm.
there's so much marketing, especially in the last like 5-ish years, that is just so fear based and negative based. And that's not
Mm-hmm.
what I want for this experience, because like the women that are coming into the studio now are people like us, their wives, their
Mm-hmm.
moms. We've been through a lot. Like our age people, like we had 9/11, and then
Yeah.
2008 and just like all of these
Yeah.
horrible things that
COVID. Yeah.
happen repeatedly for our entire lives, and now we're raising kids and all of this and like dealing with all of our stuff. And I want the women that come in here to have a day where it's not about them being a mom, it's not about them with their job, it's not about all of the negative things that people speak into women about how they're not good enough, like that they're not
Mhm.
pretty enough, they're not thin enough, they're not whatever. I mean, everything that America Ferrera said in the Barbie movie. That is how I don't want women to feel that way. And so I
Mhm.
want all of the messaging to tell them how much they deserve this and how perfect they are already. And
Yep.
because I have taken the time to go through that entire process, keeping those things in mind, I now have intentionally been able to figure out, like, okay, I know that these are the things that we need to talk about, and these are the things I want people to talk about this frequently. So that now, like this week, I'm talking about like image privacy today, because that's something that I want to talk
Mhm.
about once every month. Like there needs to be at least something in the
Yep.
feed once every month about privacy.
And the good thing about this, like as she's talking about this, we are planning a content plan workshop coming up. So you guys definitely need to be on our email list, and I'll put that in the show notes too, because that if you're on the email list, that'll be the first place that we release the information
Mm-hmm.
about this content planning workshop. But it's going to be all about how intentional Ashley was during this relaunch,
Yeah.
and then giving you plans on how to plan out your content marketing.
Yeah, so like this week is privacy. Tomorrow we're gonna do an Instagram live talking about the shift to the older client. So kind of the same
Mm-hmm.
type of stuff we're talking about here. Wednesday is all about selling the dream of like what the boudoir
Mm-hmm.
session could be. Thursday is all
Mm-hmm.
about what to wear. Friday is a selfie posing day. I don't know about Monday yet because it's Memorial Day, so I just have a star.
Yeah.
Tuesday is having your partner be a part of it because that is something that has come up repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling invisible on Wednesday and wanting to feel desirable instead. And then
Mm-hmm.
things to do before your boudoir session. And then Friday is posing selfie again. So it's just kind of
Yeah.
going through, and then like you can't see it here because there's so many. Well, most of you are probably listening to this and not even watching it. But on this page, like there's also like certain demographics that we want to target every time. So like, yes, the 40-year-old mom is one of them, but there's also brides that we want to talk to. There's also maternity that we want to
Mm-hmm.
talk to. The curvy girls, the women
Mm-hmm.
who feel like they are tiny and flat and have no curves and therefore are not desirable, which is completely not true. All of these
Yes.
things are people that, like, I'm talking to specific people, I'm talking about specific things, and it's all planned
Mm-hmm.
out. So this entire thing is planned out.
Yep.
This is for the main feed through July 31st, whatever the end of July
I
is.
love that. You did a lot of like content planning for the reels, and like did a lot of video behind the scenes stuff. And I think that you even were doing some message mining at that point, and you found that it's not just like every single woman has these insecurities.
Yeah,
So
literally,
you
even
were
the
able to
models
take,
that we brought in
yes,
had the same, and I
yes.
was like, what is happening? Like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Can we please just get to a point like where it's like body neutral to body positive? Like, it is
Yes.
insane that we all feel this way.
Yep. And had, I've been photographing models and boudoir since like exclusively since 2016. So I already had experienced that, but I was not using it in my content planning the way that you are now. So I love that you're able to take that message mining that you have seen over the last few weeks and use that for content going forward too. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that like, and by the way, guys, like I said, Instagram content planning, it's coming. You're going to want to make sure that you're there. So, show notes, sign up for the newsletter so that you can be the first to know about that. So, I think all of this only happened in the 2 weeks that it happened in, because there were two of us and we were working really hard. But we did hire out the web design and the brand design. It got done. The brand design got done like 3 weeks early. So that was awesome. The web design got done the day of. We did
Yeah, not
have
even the night before.
some,
It was the day.
yes. And we
And
did have
we
some
didn't even,
like,
no, hold on, wait. We didn't even have a website. Let's be real, because the SSL certificate
that's what
was
I was going to
not
say.
fixed.
Yeah. So we were doing a giveaway and we had it on a Canva landing page. Like we made it work. regardless, we made it work. It was happening that day. We were not waiting. Everything is fine now. Today it's May 20th. Everything's fine. The website works. It's all good. The SSL certificate, it's fine. But I at 1 o'clock in the morning recreated a landing page because the SSL certificate was not working. It was not letting anyone go to the website. So I created a landing page at 1 o'clock in the morning on May 1st so that we had somewhere to send the giveaway application, like to send women to for the application. But we made it work.
Isn't that what
So
isn't that what Tim says in Project Runway? Make it work. Isn't that what he
I
said?
have no idea. I've never watched
Oh
that.
my gosh, you need to watch TV and not Jersey
I
Shore.
don't watch. That's all I watch. Ashley is now on my Instagram, Boudoir by Tracy, or the TK Boudoir. She runs that one, and she has to go in and unfollow all the Jersey Shore people over there all the time
The
because
first reel
that's
that pops up every day is like Vinny or Snooki or
yeah.
the other idea that I brought up and maybe shouldn't have, but I'm glad I did, was the idea of having this online lunch party.
Yeah,
Because then Tracy was
I
like,
think
that
it
sounds
worked.
great. I don't have time for it. You do it.
You got this. Yep.
So I had to come up with like all of the content and like schedule it all out and do all the stuff. And that was really, I think, the hardest part for me because, and that was when I realized I needed to bring models in for video content, or everything that you had been posting was photos. And I realized like, oh, when I'm making these reels for this Instagram launch party, we don't have any video content. Like,
Right.
we have like 12 video clips of like the same four people. And
Yep.
because who is like just setting up behind the scenes content of your clients that aren't letting you share the photos, like,
Yeah.
so that was like
Exactly.
that was the time that I realized like, okay, we need that video content. But what I was able to do was I was able to use Canva. It's because I have a Canva Pro subscription to
Mm-hmm.
pull some of that stock content. So that was very helpful for it. And the only reason that I was able to do this in the time that I
Yep.
had. But
Yeah.
some of the things that I did was I really made sure to build up the excitement. I wish that we would have had more time. That's one thing that I think
Yeah.
that we should have done differently is I think that we should have had like a month long
Yeah.
kind of runway up to the launch party to build the excitement and to get people talking because we did do that, but we only did it in 3 days. And so 3 days
Yeah.
would be like by far the minimum amount of time that I would suggest hyping people up for this. And I think that
Exactly.
really goes for any big offer that you do, like a
It
minimum of
is.
3 days of excitement.
Yeah.
We had to be on social sharing everywhere. So I just like lived on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. At that point, it was
Yeah.
so much work. I worked like basically from like 6 a.m. to like midnight every day
Mm-hmm.
for like 7 to 10 days.
Now she doesn't have to work that much, guys. I'm not doing that to her
No,
anymore. Don't
no,
worry.
I'm not doing that. Now I'm barely making, I don't even make 40 hours a week. So uh,
It was just that one
just that 1 week that was
2 weeks.
ridiculous. Um,
Yeah.
I also think we should have posted more reels to get the algorithm going beforehand because we definitely were not
Yeah.
doing that since it was all photos before. It was just those 3 days
Mhm.
of reels. So like I wish we would have at least like done like photo reels beforehand too. So
Yeah.
definitely make sure that you do that going forward.
Yeah, for sure. But I still think that like for what we did, it went really well.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've almost booked at this point, we've at least booked half of the St. Louis sessions. The Denver stuff, like I said, is going to be slow. We're fine with that. We're probably going to do a bridal fair this fall, at least in Denver, probably in St. Louis too. Um, but that way we can just like ramp up there. But I also knew that the Denver location was going to be slow. Like I was totally fine with that. We're going to build that one up and it's going to be sustainable. And like our Denver photographer, she's totally fine with that too. But I really do think that like what we did was it went really well. So we did a giveaway with this launch party. But if you want the exact strategy, you're going to have to join Six Figures Simplified. It's worth it because this strategy really worked well for us. Okay, so basically the way that we ran the strategy, the giveaway strategy was it's a $250 refundable deposit. That's a very important word. You need to remember it's refundable, but there are definitely stipulations to that. And then we also did a $500 print credit. Now, if you want all of the details about how you run it, how you make sure that it actually makes you money, you will have to join Six Figures Simplified for that. But the link will be in the profile. You can just apply for Six Figures Simplified. We can see if it's the right strategy for you. But it definitely worked. So far, with 12 interviews, we've done half of these interviews. We've booked 5 of 6 clients. All of these clients are super excited and are definitely going to spend at least our sales average goal. So I am very confident that this is going to be a great strategy, a great way to get clients in the door and have them super excited and excited to celebrate with you about the rebrand, should you do a rebrand, or however you're wanting to do this giveaway. And to be honest, we've talked about it, and I think that this giveaway strategy is going to be something that we do maybe twice a year or something like that. But we're going to work out the details of that later. But I do think that it was a really good strategy to get the clients and the new clients on your email list, but also clients through the door as well.
I think more importantly, the clients onto the email list, because it
Mm-hmm.
was a really easy way to get people excited about it and interested without us having to repeatedly put messaging in front of them.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think the other thing that we did right was the messaging, which, let's be honest, you nailed that. So super excited to have you. And then getting really clear on the experience. And you talked to all the past clients and stuff about that. But how do you think that they're feeling since we've like gotten more clear on that? You've done several of like the creative consults at this point and stuff.
They definitely feel more comfortable with me. And actually, I think a good example of this is the ones we had Saturday. Saturday, I
Mm-hmm.
did two. I did
Mm-hmm.
one that I had the creative consult for. She wasn't a giveaway, though, I don't think.
No.
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 So we had one that I had done a creative consult with before, and then the other one I didn't do a creative consult with. And because this is all brand new that we're starting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The first one walked in and she was like, I am so excited to see you. And like just the energy like was so high. Like
Yeah.
we had so much fun. Like I we
Mm-hmm.
spent way too much time on hair and makeup, and then we spent too much time shooting. But it was so much fun. And then the second client, it wasn't that it was bad. It was that it was the energy and excitement just wasn't there, and like I didn't feel as much trust. It didn't feel
Mm-hmm.
like that symbiotic relationship, only
Right.
because I had zero communication with her prior to
Yeah.
it. And so I
Yep.
feel like allowing, like, definitely seeing it like the same day, that was really
Mm-hmm.
powerful for sure. Um, but I also feel like they are a lot more excited about me being a part of it too, and not
Yeah.
asking like, oh, well, where's Tracy or any of that
Right.
stuff, because that was what I was getting
Yeah.
before, and like it was really hard. And
And honestly,
stopped
I'm
working.
so confused about why they asked that because every day I would be like, I hope you have fun before your session. And then why are they asking where's Tracy? Because that's so crazy. I always let them all know, but I understand that they were definitely doing that. It's
Yeah,
just like,
it was just weird. So,
yeah,
but it's not like that
absolutely.
anymore.
Yeah. Well, that makes me happy. And I think that like a takeaway for everyone listening is like you don't necessarily have to have a creative consult because you may not have an associate photographer, but I think in our case it's extremely important because they need to be comfortable with you before they come into the session. So a lot of times like as the photographer, if you're the photographer and running the business as well, you're going to have some sort of communication with them before the session. Like I never felt like I had to have that because they were all super comfortable with me
Mm-hmm.
before the session. But that was a disconnect that we definitely had is they need to meet the photographer if it's not you. If you get one thing from this episode, I really think that you can rebrand if you feel it's right for you, but you need to make sure that it is actually right for you. You don't want to just do it because you're like, oh, Tracy did it. I should definitely do it. She said I need to create a sellable business. This is not what I'm saying. Don't just do it because you think it sounds fun. Don't just do it because you want to rebrand your business or have a new logo or something like that. It needs to be done for the right reasons. and maybe you want some momentum. I don't think that you have to rebrand for this momentum. You can just do a relaunch party or something like that. Like, you don't have to make it a big deal, rebrand your business. Like, if you're going to do it, think it through. I know I did it in 3 weeks or something like that. That doesn't mean that you should do it in 3 weeks. I make decisions really fast. But just make sure that if you do it for the right reasons, and then do it the right way. So, in honor, like I said, of this 100th episode and the rebrand, I did mention this at the beginning of the episode, but we are doing these 15-minute free coaching calls. They will be with me, and you can pick my brain, whatever you need. This is your time. So, if you want to jump on a call with me, make sure that you click the link in the show notes, and we will talk about it, talk about everything that you have coming up in your business and anything that you need to chat about. So I am excited to chat with you. Make sure you click that link in the show notes. Thank you for listening to this episode of Sustainable Freedom with Boudoir Photography. Please be sure to rate and follow so that you never miss an episode. They drop every Thursday, and they're always full of super actionable information for you to apply right now in your boudoir business. Until then, make your next shoot your best shoot.